In the final hours of life, when the body slackens into quietude and the mind begins to withdraw from the world it once knew, there arise strange flickers of awareness, subtle but undeniable. Those who have sat vigil beside the dying, nurses, physicians, family, speak in low voices of moments that defy explanation. The aged woman with dementia who, after years of silence, suddenly opens her eyes and asks for her long-dead sister by name. The child slipping into coma who lifts a hand to wave at something invisible in the corner of the room. The man who whispers with conviction, "They've come for me." Science observes. It measures heart rates and monitors brain waves, but it cannot quantify the fleeting clarity that floods some minds just before the light goes out. This phenomenon, known as terminal lucidity, has puzzled medical professionals for centuries. The term is recent, coined by the psychiatrist Michael Nahm in the early 2000s, yet the occurrences it describes have been recorded since antiquity. Hippocrates noted the return of consciousness in those on the brink of death. In the 19th century, physicians and clergy alike documented cases of the severely ill regaining lucidity moments or hours before death. These awakenings are not always serene, they can be charged with emotion, purpose, or profound recognition. For the families gathered at a bedside, the experience can seem miraculous, offering a last, unlooked-for goodbye. What the dying see in those moments is perhaps more enigmatic still. Reports come from hospice wards, from deathbed journals, from recordings of the final words of soldiers, prisoners, saints, and children. They speak of light, sometimes warm, golden, flooding the room. They speak of figures, often shrouded or shining, who wait silently or beckon gently. Many describe the arrival of deceased loved ones, sometimes long forgotten or never consciously known. A woman in rural England called out joyfully to her mother in Polish, a language she had not spoken in decades. A man in Montana stretched his arms upward, tears in his eyes, murmuring the name of his lost daughter. There is a pattern, a familiarity, and yet it eludes the grasp of empirical reason. Are these hallucinations, the last flares of a brain deprived of oxygen? Or are they something else, something that brushes the edges of consciousness only when the veil grows thin? Skeptics argue for the former, neurotransmitter imbalance, neural disinhibition, the gradual breakdown of cortical order. But there is something in the quality of the visions, their quiet solemnity, their recurring motifs across cultures and centuries, that suggests more than mere biochemistry. How is it that so many people, unaware of each other's lives or beliefs, speak of the same luminous threshold? There is a growing body of research into what might be called deathbed phenomena. In recent years, large-scale studies have been conducted in palliative care units in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Japan. These studies consistently find that a significant percentage of patients nearing death report vivid experiences, seeing rooms full of people no one else can see, sensing presences, hearing voices, or even feeling themselves leave their bodies. Unlike hallucinations caused by fever or drugs, these experiences often bring peace, closure, even joy. Some patients who were previously agitated or afraid grow calm after one of these episodes. One nurse reported watching a previously unconscious man open his eyes, smile, and say simply, "Now I understand," before falling back and passing away minutes later. There is a strange intelligence in these final moments, a coherence not easily dismissed. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer wrote that death is not the end but a transition, and perhaps what we call terminal lucidity is a glimmer of that transition, a mind moving beyond linear time, reconnecting with something primal and eternal. In a world obsessed with prolonging life and forestalling death, such moments serve as subtle reminders that consciousness may not be bound solely by flesh and blood. There are countless stories hidden in the folds of history, quiet yet persistent. The priest who watched a dying child described the face of her great-grandfather, whom she had never met, in perfect detail. The agnostic nurse who began to pray after witnessing a series of deathbed visions too consistent to ignore. The skeptic physician who, after 40 years in medicine, finally admitted he could not explain what he had seen in his hospice rounds. People who claimed they were being called, who reported crossing a bridge or entering a garden, and whose final expressions were so serene it was as though they had stepped into a long-awaited home. We speak of death as an ending, but it may be more accurate to see it as a moment of unveiling. Whatever lies beyond the silence of the last breath, it seems to exert a magnetic pull even before that breath is drawn. The dying begin to see through a different lens, through time, through memory, through the veils of fear and forgetfulness. Some smile, some weep, some reach out toward what only they can see. It is not for us to say what awaits them. But in the hush that falls around their final words, we may glimpse something eternal, fragile, and vast. The mystery persists, untouched by dogma and undiminished by doubt. In the flicker of eyes that no longer focus on this world, in the whispered names of the long dead, in the quiet comfort that often follows these apparitions, there lies a question as old as breath: what does it mean to die? And in the half-light of those final hours, we find no answer, only the hush of awe and the slow, trembling recognition that perhaps we have always known.